Good morning.
Morning.
Good morning.
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
This is my boomstick.
Here's Johnny.
Are you not entertained? Are you not entertained?
Righteous! Righteous! Yeah!
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
Good morning, Vietnam!
Houston, we have a problem.
The first rule of Fight Club is you do not talk about Fight Club.
All right.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. My name is Will Spalding, and as always, I am joined by the ever so talented and ever so revered Sam Dierberger. Sam, how are you doing?
That's right. I am revered by many people, a vast variety of figures, both in and out of the film industry.
Right.
Depending on the reviews we give for their movies.
And the podcast industry, we should say, too.
The podcast industry. I mean, our chief among our critics are, of course, the director, Sam Levinson.
Right.
and some other people, you know. But yeah, we are very talented and very revered. How are you doing today, Will?
Fantastic. We were just off air, kind of slightly talking about it, but other than the chilly weather, I'll say, to say the least, sitting at around like negative 25 where we're at,
right,
where I'm at. But other than that, doing well, doing really well. I'll be excited to get out of this cold though.
Yeah, I just watched the movie Snowpiercer last week for the first time, and it really reminded me of the current temperature outside, the current climate. I feel like getting on a train and just going around the world.
What's your 10-second review on Snowpiercer?
My
2-second review on it.
It's so weird and so idiosyncratic that you almost have to respect it, but it's so out there.
Right. Okay. My 2-second review is I hate it. All right. There we go. But I don't know what it is with Bong Joon-ho, but that guy, I just don't 100% like. I really like Parasite, although I've slightly soured on it. Not like soured on it as since seeing it, but it's like thinking back on it, it feels not as good as the first time I watched it, if that makes sense. And then every other thing I don't necessarily like from him.
It is kind of like it's the darling of the Letterboxd.com community.
Oh my gosh.
So much so, you know how certain movies just spread like wildfire, and then it's like a hate crime not to give them 5 stars.
Pretty much.
Once you see it.
Yeah.
That was Parasite, because all of a sudden, you know, you're looking through, and then Parasite gets like averages like 4.6 out of 5 out of every review on it ever. And then we're like, wait, that's a better average review than The Godfather. And then we're like, okay, we might have gotten out of hand with this, people. That's just a little bit.
That's what I just don't like. It's not the greatest movie of all time. So that's where I wonder where the Letterboxd community, where our heads are at on this.
Yeah, because, you know, people are going to watch it in like 2 years and be like, you know, that was pretty good.
Yeah, that was good. I liked it. Yeah.
We're not dissing Bong Joon-ho, though. We're not. That's not the point of it.
No, very talented. But so, Sam, we're going to talk some industry news, but also, of course, we'll have our movie of the week segment. And what is said movie of the week this week, Sam?
This week, we're talking about Judas and the Black Messiah.
Deputy Chairman Fred Hampton of the Illinois Black Panther Party. Repeat after me. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary.
There we go. We're talking.
Are you a revolutionary?
I don't. Daniel Kaluuya sure is. I mean, we just heard him say it. Yeah, we're gonna be talking Judas and the Black Messiah this week, which I've been looking forward to for a long time. But we'll of course get into all of that later on in the episode. But for now, Sam, we're gonna talk just a light amount of industry news. And I know you had a few things you wanted to touch on, so take it away.
Yeah, real quick. The first thing that I just found kind of fascinating a few weeks back, I can't remember which episode, but we talked about Tom Cruise's meltdown on the set of Mission Impossible 7. The kind of a leaked rant where he said, people aren't following the COVID guidelines, and we're trying to keep people employed here. We got hundreds of people on staff on this crew making this movie or whatever. And we kind of debated his intentions with that rant. Was it selfish? Was it just, was it him trying to keep the project alive? Whatever. But now we learned that Mission Impossible 7 and 8 reportedly no longer shooting in one block, which is one of those stories where it's like, I didn't know this was even occurring. And then it stopped occurring. You know what I mean? So the whole concept of shooting Mission Impossible 7 and 8 with the same crew, like different stories, obviously, but like part of the same franchise, but two different scripts. Like, what do you make of this? This is pretty ambitious.
Okay, so they were originally going to shoot them back to back?
They were, and they're not now.
They're not anymore. Okay.
So,
I
but that's interesting, right?
Yeah, I think shooting movies back to back is kind of cool. It's been done with like the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Maybe Hobbit might have done it too, but we don't see it happen often. I don't know. I think it's fine to do that. I think everyone's kind of dialed in more as well. I mean, you're making two movies back to back. Obviously, you're cutting down on expenses and everything. So, I get they're not doing it anymore just because of COVID, or
I assume so. I think it had to do with the locations where they're shooting at, because it's pretty globe-trotting. Like
right,
they film all over, and I guess it just became impractical to do so with the different restrictions in different places. And it's also Tom Cruise's availability, it looks like. He probably has other projects to work on. He needs to promote Top Gun Maverick, which is planned to come out this summer. It's weird to say this summer because it feels like the summer was just here. But summer 2021,
right.
We're finally going to start seeing some of these projects that were supposed to come out last year.
Which is still crazy to me. Sam, before I gotta ask you this question. This is very important.
Mm-hmm.
You stuck Ethan Hunt, James Bond, and Jason Bourne in a room together and told them to kill each other. Who's walking out of that room alive? This is a serious question.
Wow.
We'll say Daniel Craig's James Bond too.
Oh, Daniel Craig's James Bond, 100%.
Okay. All right.
I think that might be like projection because that's who I want to win.
Sure.
But how about you? Who you got?
Here's my thoughts. I would say Jason Bourne, only because that dude kills people with newspapers. Like, dude's just a killer.
Yeah,
anyway.
he would be the one who got like the 3.4 fluid ounces of a liquid to take down the plane. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You need to do anything.
Drown the pilot. But yeah. So anyway, the other piece of film news that we kind of it's more of like a ongoing discussion, but I keep getting plagued in my news feed. You know how Google has a news feed for you? And of course, mine is all just like movie stuff because that's all I research. And they track everything. but I keep getting plagued with these articles about the Zack Snyder cut of Justice League. What? Explain, because I don't watch superhero movies.
Okay.
You know me.
Yes. Okay. So for everyone who's unaware, DC Warner Bros. Released a movie in 2017 called Justice League, which was originally intended to be directed by Zack Snyder. Snyder, unfortunately, in the making of the movie, his daughter passed away. So he left the project. He said, I have family matters to deal with. I have to leave, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So Joss Whedon came in, who directed the first two Avengers movies. So Joss Whedon came in. So like a guy who is competent to do this kind of stuff came in to finish the project. And obviously it was just a complete mess. I mean, when you have multiple directors in a project at different times, trying to each fulfill their creative vision, plus a studio who is really stupid, and as we're talking about a Warner Brothers movie today, but Warner Bros is so dumb with all of their stuff, especially big blockbusters.
Sure.
So they have someone else come in and do it, but they're also tinkering with it. So it comes out and it sucks. It is what it is. And everyone kind of pushes blame onto Zack Snyder because, he was directing it. And yeah, he didn't really finish his product, but, even if he had, like, it still would have been bad is the point. And essentially he kind of, like, the whole time he was kind of denying this backlash, like, it's not my movie, it's not what I envisioned, but he never really did anything with that. He just wanted to let people know, essentially. And then, like, oh gosh, 8 months ago, it like got announced that we'd be seeing the Snyder cut, is what it's been deemed as.
Yeah.
And what that, so for everyone should know that Warner Brothers' one requirement for Justice League the movie in 2017 was that it was under 2 hours. And the movie is 1 hour, 59 minutes, and 58 seconds. So they just scraped under 2 hours. Zack Snyder's Snyder cut is going to be 4 hours.
Oh my God.
There is so much wrong with this. It'd take a whole episode to describe it all. But like, Zack Snyder is like visually disgusting to me. Like he's so hard to watch to me. It's way too many explosions. It's like the Michael Bay thing. And like, Zach, I'm sorry, but like, you left this project for a reason, for like the most horrible reason ever, to lose a child.
Yes.
Don't come back to it. Like, that's just doesn't make sense to me.
Man, that is, yeah. It's a terrible situation for everyone involved, us included, but.
Right. So, like, what do you, like, I mean, did he go, I don't know, like, I don't know everything either. Did he go back and shoot some other extra stuff? Like, you only made half a movie, so how are you making a cut?
That's what I'm confused about. Does he have access to everything that Whedon shot? Like, does he just have all the B-roll? Like,
I have no idea. I don't know.
To him if he left the project? Like, I don't.
From what I understand, it's being released on HBO Max as a 4-part series, an hour a piece, which makes total sense because movies are typically 4 acts, right?
Right.
Like, it's so. I mean, essentially, that's what's going on with the Snyder Cut. I don't know when this gets released. Sometime this year, I think. But I mean, this is just a complete mess. I could go on and on about DC. Apparently, in the new Flash movie, there will be 2 or 3 Batmans in it. I mean, we already have DC has like 4 Jokers right now.
Yeah.
like Michael Keaton is coming back as Batman.
Yes,
But
that
so is-
I don't understand.
So
But
is Ben Affleck. So I just don't know what's going on. Like they're already so far behind Marvel, and like we could like Marvel's just infinitely times better than they are, but they're so far behind, and they're still like trying to play catch up in a way that will never catch them up, which does not make sense to me. But
well, that's the thing is they keep recasting the same characters.
right.
They keep going back to the Batman and Superman and
Yeah.
I suppose that's because DC doesn't have as many superheroes, right? But still, I mean, can we make a what's his name, Martian Manhunter by movie? Can we make a well, we don't want to make a new Green Lantern movie. There's just so many different things. Like I don't understand what they're thinking.
We
I
don't want to
really
make a new Green Lantern movie because the first one is just so good.
Oh, I see. Okay, that
Yeah,
makes
I mean,
sense now.
It's just that it's that good where you just would not want to redo it.
It's a cult classic. You can't,
Right, exactly.
You can't mess with it. So yeah, I don't know. I wanted your thoughts on that because I don't understand what's going on. I don't have a dog in this fight. I just want it to go away, and I want Zack Snyder to be off of my newsfeed.
Yeah, it needs to go away, and Snyder needs to stop. Like, just be done, dude. Like, it's not
Because everyone's obsessing over it,
Yeah, so it's 240 minutes. Zack Snyder's Justice League. Oh my gosh.
240 minutes.
That was so. Whew. Oh boy! Wow. All right, let's move on.
All right. Well, moving on. It's time, I think, to talk about Judas and the Black Messiah.
Advances are forming a rainbow coalition of oppressed brothers and sisters of every color.
Their aim is to sow hatred and inspire terror.
I will learn all that I can. These ain't no terrorists. You can murder a liberator, but you can't murder liberation. You can murder a revolutionary, but you can't murder revolution. And you can murder a freedom fighter, but you can't murder freedom.
Judas and the Black Messiah. This has kind of been on my radar, my docket for a while. I mean, obviously, the title alone,
Yes. Yes.
gets you interested. Great title, really cool.
Yeah, that's funny because that was like the first thing I was going to mention, the title. Because you when you first read that title, you're like, well, that seems just strange. Like it seems pretty out of left field. I'm always wary of long titles.
Agreed.
That are seemingly kind of random, but you finish the movie and you're like, oh my God, that's perfect.
Yeah, great title. Perfectly fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I had anticipated this one for quite a while. I mean, the story, just from the brief description is awesome. I knew who Fred Hampton was, but not enough to tell anyone about him, if that makes sense. I love Daniel Kaluuya. Lakeith Stanfield is legitimately, in his generation, like a top 10 actor.
Oh yeah, he's one of the most underrated actors working today, I think.
Absolutely. I mean, the writing on the wall said that this movie was going to be good, and spoiler alert, I thought it was really good. So
same here.
Yeah, so Sam, what are your anticipations or like early thoughts or spoiler-free thoughts? What do you got?
Yeah. This has vaguely been on my radar ever since Get Out and all the praise that got. I kind of looked into Daniel Kaluuya and all the projects he was working on. So I kind of had heard about it, and I think I wrote it off as kind of like one of those typical historical, dramas. I thought it would be actually, we could get into this later, but I thought it would be more in the vein of something like a Trial of Chicago 7. And indeed, we find that these two movies, Chicago the Trial 7, Trial of Chicago 7, and Judas and the Black Messiah are very much interlinked. They actually are linked by like a specific event.
That was cool too.
The Chicago riots, and it's just funny that they came out
Right.
within 3 months of each other. That's pretty wild. So yeah, there was that, and two different studios too. So yeah, and but yeah, this movie is intensely engaging for most of the runtime, because right away you're kind of engulfed into this character that Lakeith Stanfield plays, and we kind of follow him as it's kind of like an infiltration story, right? Very much similar to The Departed in kind of story structure, but I would say very different in tone.
Right.
And yeah, it's just a very exciting historical action thriller type thing, and it's one of my favorites of the year, I would say.
Yeah, I'm glad you said action thriller, because there really was. I mean, I expected this to kind of just be not run of the mill, but kind of just an average drama movie that we see that gets nominated for the Oscars.
Right.
But really, I mean, this was thrilling. I mean, it did leave me on the edge of my seat, and oddly, like there was some action in it, like there were some shootouts with the Black Panther parties, and it really stunned me, and not what I expected it to be, but I was pleasant with what it was. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I think the way to get into this, like kind of still spoiler free, but to kind of make sense of the story, is you got to break it down into the different players, like, because we have Lakeith Stanfield, who plays I gotta get his name right.
Bill O'Neill.
Bill O'Neill.
Is that right?
You have Bill. Yeah, I think it's O'Neill. But you have Bill O'Neill.
Yeah, it is. Okay.
Who's kind of essentially kind of blackmailed into becoming a sting into the Black Panther Party. You have the Black Panther Party itself, and then you have the FBI, who's blackmailing Bill to infiltrate their group, and then you have the Crowns, who are kind of like a rival group within the city in Chicago. And then you have a whole bunch of different players who are acting kind of independently, and it's just it's really fun to watch all these different groups kind of interact with each other and kind of form alliances, and that all happens in the first 30 minutes of this runtime, right? So I think that's where you kind of have to start, is right away from the beginning. We see Bill O'Neill basically try to hijack a car pretending to be an FBI agent, which is first of all a genius way to do it, right? At a bar, so that's kind of where the story starts, and you assume that that's related, right? That's kind of what's brilliant about the movie right away, is you assume this is related to the overarching plot. But really, the movie just begins with essentially a MacGuffin to get the plot started. And it's funny to be talking in these terms, because this is a true story, which is the most insane part of all of it, right?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's a great opening scene, just to kind of understand who our main character Bill is. Plus, he needs to meet the FBI, so obviously he can be this mole for them. And we should say Stanfield was absolutely incredible in this. And the first scene with him and Plemons, and really every scene with Stanfield and Plemons, was just so well acted that it was just watching two guys that are at the top of their game just doing their jobs, which was really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And Plemons, another really underrated guy that more people should be aware of.
Yeah, yeah, he kind of came out of nowhere, didn't he?
Yeah.
Last year or so. But I feel like he's been around. He's been around for a while, just kind of as a minor character actor. But I think he's pretty versatile. He really just absolutely kind of embodies this FBI agent who's like I said, acting like semi-independently from the bureau, right?
Right. And that
no one's aware. Yeah.
That character is really interesting too. You know, we're led to believe that he's a pretty stand-up guy, and you know, he's in support of civil rights, and but then, you know, we learn later that, I mean, he is influenced by people, and you know, maybe he's even, or he not necessarily being blackmailed as well, but then like people kind of force things on him where he kind of changes and goes through a character arc of his own. So not just the main plots of this movie are great, but even those subplots of like B characters almost work really well, in my opinion.
Yeah. And well, again, what's so interesting about his character, Roy Mitchell, is, and I guess this is kind of a microcosm of the entire, I think I would say, the message of the story, which is kind of like, it's kind of a rejection of tribalism, you know, because we have these groups, right? We have the FBI, we have the Black Panther Party, we have the Crowns, we have the Puerto Rican Union also in Chicago. We have all these kind of solidified groups at play, but at the end of the day, all these people are acting independently and in their own interests. Even Fred Hampton is acting in his own interests.
Right. Yeah.
Bill O'Neill is obviously acting in his own interests, or else he goes to prison. Roy Mitchell is just an ambitious FBI agent trying to use Bill to get ahead in his career. So it's really just a great triangle that's set up of kind of conflicting interests. And I thought that was really good to see, because I think a lot of these historical dramas can easily get framed into kind of a black and white scenario. No pun intended, actually. But you know what I mean? Like, you know, no one in the story is fully evil, and no one in this story is fully good at all. So yeah, it's just well written altogether, I would say.
For sure. So we get into it, and we have Bill O'Neill, who is now going to be a mole for the FBI in the Black Panther Party. And he's supposed to get close with Danny Kaluuya's character, Fred Hampton, the leader of the Black Panther Party. And he does so pretty quickly. And I want to get your thoughts. Was that a little rush to you, or do you feel like you're glad that we got into it? Because I had that opinion. I like that it got right into it and didn't really dwell. But I want to get your thoughts.
Yeah, I mean, now that you asked the question, I mean, I would have liked to see a little more development in order to get to it. But while you're watching it, it's done in a way so that I don't think any audience member stops and thinks, well, that was a little rushed, wasn't it? Like, you only come to that conclusion afterwards, right? But when you're watching it in the thick of it, it all makes logical sense. And that's what's so interesting about selecting Bill O'Neill is he has no ties to the Black Panthers prior to getting taken into custody by the FBI, right? It's just that the FBI sees a young black male and they think he is the perfect candidate for this infiltration. You know, he's young, so he can be it's plausible that he would be idealistic about the civil rights movement. It's plausible that he would be swayed by radical agendas like socialism, a lot of these taboo ideas that were around in the late 60s. So it's so cool that the FBI, well, not cool, but it's well done that the FBI picks him of all people for an unrelated thing. Like it's an unrelated offense. He was just trying to hijack a car.
Yeah.
And he ends up getting close to Fred Hampton. And he does so well. So yeah, I mean, right, like you said, that's right in the first 15, 20 minutes of the film, is he's already like essentially his right-hand man all of a sudden.
Yeah, and
it works well.
I guess that kind of goes with what I want to touch on next, is that I loved Bill O'Neill's progression as a character. I mean, we go from this guy who's just hijacking cars to he's hesitant about being this mole, and then we'll just put out a spoiler alert from here on out too. Go see this movie. It's really quite good. Go see. So spoilers for Judas and Black Messiah, but he grows from this pretty hesitant to, now I'm just in it so I can get some money, plus I don't go to jail, and then now he's in it because he kind of says it in the interviews that are spliced in, which was a cool touch.
Yeah. Yeah. Real quick, I mean, it's amazing how the makeup team who did up Lakeith Stanfield to all of a sudden look like a 50-year-old man,
right,
in a matter of, with just makeup. I mean, that was incredible.
Yeah,
he was almost unrecognizable.
So,
but yeah.
And then he turns into, he kind of says that he looks up to this FBI agent a little bit, and then he even transforms a little bit more to, he's kind of on board with this Black Panther Party.
Yeah.
And we see that in the really cool scene I played in the clip at the beginning of the Fred Hampton giving a speech of I am a revolutionary. And Bill O'Neill is on the front line, and he's solely into it, which I just thought that progression of that character was so well done.
Right.
And didn't take any liberties, and really did it well. I thought it worked perfectly.
Yeah. And then you love the subsequent scene when Roy Mitchell, Jesse Plemons, is talking to him, and he says, "I was there," and either you're an incredible actor or you actually believe this stuff, and it's just that's a moment for Bill as a person to really sit down and consider, like, how much of this is acting? Did I get too close? And that's kind of like a typical trope in like these espionage movies where you have a mole somewhere, is like they get too invested in the work, and you've seen that before. But this is obviously a true story again. So it's like, how much of this did he buy into, and how much of this was acting out of self-interest? I would still say it's more self-interest, because we have the scene in the middle of the film where he almost gets shot, and he immediately calls Roy and says, I'm out. This is, I'm not risking my life for this. But Roy finds a way to change his mind, as we'll find out. But yeah, so like you say, it's so interesting to see Bill kind of transform from a 17-year-old. That's the other thing. He was 17 years old when he was assigned to infiltrate the Black Panther Party.
That's nuts.
Oh my goodness. Could you imagine? That was 2 years ago for us.
Yeah. Crazy. Well, and Fred Hampton in this movie is 21, 20, so
yeah, right.
They're all young, and yeah, it's crazy. I want to break it down a little bit more and ask, like, so what were some of your favorite parts of this movie? Any specific scenes or just in general?
I actually really enjoyed the scene where, what is her name?
Deborah?
Is it Deborah? It's in the car.
Okay. Yes. It's with
What is her name?
Jimmy Palmer is in the back seat with Judy Harmon, I think.
Judy Harmon. Yeah, she's kind of like it's a relatively minor role, but Dominique Thorne is her name. She basically deduces that the FBI or she's suspicious that Bill is some sort of mole or sting, and Bill basically has to prove that he has a history with carjacking. So it's a very tense moment where he has a gun to his head, literally has a gun to his head, and he has to basically, hotwire a car. And I just thought the tension in that scene worked really well. I was like checking the runtime. I'm like, oh, this might end sooner than I thought, because this is certainly progressing the plot forward. But, within the context of the entire movie, I guess it didn't work as well because people didn't become suspicious of him after that. Like, he was obviously able to at least throw them off his trail a little bit. So, but I think that scene worked really well from a cinematic standpoint. Also, Fred Hampton's speech to the I would call it the redneck gang, I guess is how they refer to it, where he walks into their church and he's able to basically, at a time of such racial tension, basically bring them into the fold and join the Rainbow Coalition is what he calls it. And he's able to pull the Puerto Ricans in as well, and kind of build this coalition against the pigs, the cops, right? Scene worked really well, and Daniel Kaluuya was at his best in oratory. He was able to kind of use rhetoric and really influence people. It's astonishing how much he got engulfed in the character. So
right, yeah. Chloe is absolutely fantastic, and I would not be surprised if he gets some Oscar love, but we'll talk about that later too.
Mm-hmm.
I would say, I mentioned this a little bit, but the A plots are obviously 100% there, and they're all incredible. I think where the movie really gets pushed over the top for me is some of the B storylines. Like I said, I mean, I really liked all the stuff with Jimmy Palmer, played by Ashton Sanders, who's really pretty good in a lot of things. I'm thinking Moonlight specifically. He's one of the three main actors in it, who plays the main character. I thought his arc was really, or not necessarily arc, but storyline was really cool. And then more specifically, his best friend, who almost kind of avenges him after his death,
right,
really well.
Right.
And then the scene of Fred Hampton going to visit that kid's mom was really good too.
Yeah, and he's kind of got his own parallels, right? Because his own wife is pregnant, and that works really well. I enjoyed how his relationship with Deborah developed. I thought that was really organic and felt really natural, and it worked well. They kind of in that same pregnancy subplot, they have that typical, I guess, like moral question of the world is so tumultuous right now. Am I a good person to bring a baby into this world? And that actually works because, the rest of the movie is surrounded by just like chaos and violence, right? And upheaval. So that works great. And anytime Kaluuya was on screen, he was giving like just a hell of a performance.
Yeah, he was 100% dialed in. That's for sure.
He was, and it was cool to see the kind of he had some variance in his tones when he would speak to like a large audience. He was very animated and charismatic, and then when he was speaking to Deborah, the only like intimate person in his life, or maybe a little bit to Bill, he was much more toned down, much more quiet and shy.
Yeah.
and it was just very good to see. It's a tough character to pull off, and Kaluuya did it perfectly. So
yeah,
man.
Kaluuya's he's up there for one of the best actors of his generation as well. And he's an exciting guy to look out for sure. And I should say the actress who plays Deborah, we've seen her once before, Sam. My favorite movie of last year, Project Power. She was in that.
What? Who was she in there?
She's the main girl in it.
She is?
It looks like it, yeah.
Huh.
Well, there we go. Yeah, so we've pretty much just praised this movie, and really, it deserves every praise it gets. But I want to ask you as well, and I'll give my my one complaint about this movie, or one major complaint, I should say. Do you have any? And then I'll give mine.
I do have a major complaint.
I'm wondering if we have the same one.
It's pretty general. There's not one thing. It's not a nitpick. It's pretty general. Otherwise, this would be a lot higher in my book. From, I'd say, about halfway through the movie to like the last, I have to divide the movie into sixths. Okay. I would say from the 3/6 mark to the 5/6 mark, it was just slow. Like it just hit a drag. It was difficult to get engaged again. And then by the end, when we have the death of Hampton.
Oh, that last scene was absolutely fantastic. The raid of the house was
and the raid and even the party, right? I think it picks back up right at that party scene the night before he's about to go back to prison. And then Bill comes up to him and like tears in his eyes, right? It's just flawless acting from Lakeith. Tears in his eyes. He goes, "Can I get you another drink, Fred?" Because he's going to poison the drink. He's going to get the drug.
Yeah, that was a great scene, great moment. And I should say the scene prior to the party of Bill going to Roy Mitchell, the FBI agent, and saying like, we did it. I'm out now because Fred Hampton's going to prison, so I'm done. And right. And then Roy Mitchell essentially says, "No, you're not. You're going to poison him tonight." Yeah. And Bill again gets rightfully so pretty emotional in that scene as well, because he knows he's going to be essentially killing his friend and who has become friends with over the time that he has been with him. So that was a really emotional scene. And the ending is fantastic.
And this goes back to what we were talking about initially about the title of this film. That's the moment where you're like, oh my God, this title is perfect, right? Yeah. Like the biblical parallels are staggering. It's so unreal that this happened in real life. And you could say like, I don't know, history repeats itself or something, but you have Bill in the place of Judas, selling out, killing or betraying his friend. And he doesn't actually kill his friend because he took the poison, but the raid comes just a few hours later. And the parallels to the Romans coming to arrest Jesus, like right. it works so well.
And that kind of transitions well into my one complaint about this movie.
Okay,
is that we talked earlier that we had a scene where Bill was kind of being questioned because some people were suspicious about him, and I wanted one more of those. I wanted one more scene of that. Because I felt like, obviously Fred Hampton is the Jesus of this story, and Bill is Judas, pretty clearly, mm-hmm. or Fred is the Messiah, really. And
right.
I wanted one scene where the Messiah kind of confronts Judas / knows that Judas has betrayed him. But again, I understand that this is a true story. There was probably there was probably none of that. So I guess I
Yeah.
can't really complain about it, but I felt like it just would have added that extra. It would have added really one more really great scene is what it would have done.
Yes.
Is what it would have
Yeah.
done. We didn't miss out on any, or it didn't lose anything. We just missed out on something.
So would you say that it was like it would be a moment of like Hampton essentially saying to Bill, like, I know you're in a tough position too. Like the kind of that understanding
Right.
of like,
It'd be exactly that.
I understand that you have to do this. You
And
know,
it's okay.
you're
Yeah. I wanted
and
that.
it's okay. Yeah, yeah.
But maybe that didn't exist. So that's fine.
And the other scene, and this is going back a little bit, that was really fascinating is when Roy finds out from his superiors that the mole that they had in the other Chicago chapter of the Black Panthers, right, from like the next town over or whatever, that mole was the one who who basically placed blame on another person for being the mole, and the FBI was just like, yeah, let him die, we're okay with that. So like the FBI lets him get away with murder, their mole, and then the mole comes to the Chicago chapter to talk to them, and he says like, yeah, we just tortured and killed a mole in our chapter last week, you know. And then Lakeith gives this like over the top, I would say like over the top, but it's a good over the top, like it's purposeful. And he's like, man, if I had a mole in front of me, I would, you know, I would just beat him. And it's like it was so great, you know. It's like perfect dramatic irony. He knows, the audience knows, the rest don't know. And then that's the moment where we realize, oh, the FBI is also an independent actor here who also doesn't like anyone involved and will stop at nothing to kill these people. Like it's so well done.
It's great scene after great scene is what it comes down to.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's get into wrap-up thoughts plus a little Oscar talk. My wrap-up thoughts are that I really enjoyed this, and I mean, this is a 2021 movie, so I've now started my new list, and you know this is going to be near the top. Like, don't be surprised when we say this in our top 10 for next year. So, which is kind of crazy to say. I mean, we don't normally get that just because everything's been pushed, but we don't normally get this type of movie right now. So it was I don't want to say surprise, but it was good to see this movie for sure. I really enjoyed it, and we saw some really great performances and a collation of a lot of great scenes, and absolutely fantastic. Really, really riveting.
It's a great way to start out the year, like you said. And I mean, this gets in kind of a larger discussion, but you know, how do you count this, Will? Do you say, because it's up for Oscar consideration this year, right? Is it there? Do you count it as a 2020 release? What do you count it as a 2021 release?
So
it's kind of a gray area, right?
So I'm gonna count it as 2021.
Okay.
But I know a lot of people who are combining 2020 and 2021 just because they like in their list, just because they can't separate it in their minds, because so many of the movies just run together, and you know they're in the same Oscar year, or you know they were supposed to come out in 2020. So
yeah, right.
I'm gonna go 2021 just because that's the year it came out, but I would understand putting it wherever, to be honest.
Yeah, the OCD in me is just like, what do I do?
Right.
You know,
it's a tough position. Look what you did to us, COVID.
God, COVID. Yeah, but I mean, my wrap-up thoughts for Judas and Black Messiah, absolutely riveting, like you said. Probably my one complaint is kind of slowness generally.
Sure.
And I think that's just a matter of pacing. I really do. Or the way the scenes are ordered. You know, we just kind of have like a few slower, lackadaisical scenes in kind of that back nine there. So, yeah, I mean, getting past that, it's a fantastic movie. Great way to start the year. Two excellent performances. great technically too. Some really interesting
absolutely.
shots there.
Yeah, for sure.
we can kind of address, but
It's tight too, direction wise.
yes. I'm thinking specifically of when Bill goes to Roy's house and he's pouring himself. There's a shot of the glass, and he's like pouring himself a drink or whatever, and it's just well done. You got to see it. You got to see it.
Right.
Judas and the Black Messiah. Got to see it.
I want to ask you, Sam, before we get into our ratings, what Oscars do you see here?
I think I'll be enraged if I don't see a nom for Kaluuya.
Yeah, he deserves it, man.
He
Supporting
definitely
or
deserves it.
supporting or not? Supporting or actor?
It's tough because he's billed as the first one in the cast, but this movie is really about Bill and Lakeith.
Right.
So that's the tough thing. I think he could do. I think he could do
either.
either. Wherever they can squeeze him in,
Yeah.
I'd be fine with.
For sure.
And even this year's Oscars, I don't think the actors race is that particularly stacked. I mean, you have Oldman, and you have some people from the Trial of Chicago 7, presumably. But past that, we're not looking at like a ridiculous 2019-esque
Right.
year.
I would
You know what I'm
say
saying?
for actor, you got you have Anthony Hopkins, Gary Oldman, and Chadwick Boseman. So I mean, those are the obvious locks. He could slide in certainly at a number 4.
Right. Yeah. I mean, and I guess you're right, because the Trial of Chicago 7,
They're
all
all
these people, they could literally be all supporting. Like, there is no protagonist in that movie.
Yeah, no. So I
So-
would say Kaluuya for sure. I mean, this should get a picture nomination. It'll slide into like the number 8 spot or something.
Yep.
And then, I could see some technical stuff in here too. Why not?
Oh, definitely.
I wouldn't say Lakeith Stanfield for either actor supporting. I would doubt it.
Yeah.
I mean, this will be high up there for sure.
The problem is that I think that Lakeith's performance is going to get overshadowed by Kaluuya.
Yeah.
Even though the movie is about Lakeith's character, Kaluuya is just he's much more screen grabbing. Like the nature of his character. Like, we just played the trailer, and it's like the entire trailer is a clinic of acting from Kaluuya.
Yeah, he's doing a lot of
even though the
shouting.
movie is really about Lakeith. Yeah.
Right. He's doing a lot of shouting, a lot of screaming, a lot of body movements and facial expression. So he's definitely the powerhouse of this movie for sure.
Right. So, yeah. I mean, some technical stuff, but past that, I don't know. It is kind of a late entry for sure.
Yeah. I don't see it winning anything by any means, but this was certainly a treat of a movie, and I want to get into ratings now. I'll start it off. This is a solid 4 stars for me. I mean, it's not a 4.5, but it's really strong.
And I'm with you. 4 stars out of 5.
Good to hear. Nice.
Solid film.
Well, there you go. Go see Judas and the Black Messiah in theaters and on HBO Max. But Sam, should we get into some recommendations or recomendaciones for our Spanish listeners?
Yeah, you should go first, because you're gonna catch me offhand here.
I will go first, and I'm excited about this one. I thought for a while. I was going back and forth between a couple different things. There's 2 actually, and I decided on something I just saw a couple days ago for the first time, and was incredibly surprised and really enjoyed it. And that is a movie called Into the Wild, starring Emile Hirsch, but the supporting cast goes on for a while, and it's really well acted. But it's about true story about a guy who after college just donates his life savings and then goes to live in the wilderness essentially by himself. He leaves home without telling his parents or sister, and It's about his story of living in the wild. It's really clever, and it doesn't fall into a lot of the. It falls into some, but not a lot of the. I mean, wilderness movies, can fall into a lot of tropes, and this one stays away from most of them. And it's basically eye candy. I mean, you're out in the wild, and it's absolutely beautiful. So that's gonna be my recommendation. Into the Wild, directed by Sean Penn. So, really cool movie.
Yeah. I haven't seen the movie, but I'm very aware of the story of Alex Supertramp and all that.
Yeah.
And also Eddie Vedder wrote a very good song for the movie called Society.
Yeah, good song. Good song too.
Good tune. So for my recommend, I saw this a few weeks ago. Really enjoyed it, actually. It's a documentary film on the story of John Belushi. It's called Belushi. I saw it on Showtime. And it's just a really well done documentary film. It's quick, probably about an hour 45. And it's a great retelling of his life. A lot of the struggles he went through, particularly in the late 70s, early 80s with the drug abuse and the toll that fame takes. It's kind of a typical story about what that does to an individual. But I think Belushi is a singularly interesting character in American culture.
Yeah, John Belushi's great. I love him.
He's so interesting, and I think his comedy was really high level for its time, really ahead of its time. So check out Belushi on Showtime if you're into that kind of thing.
Yeah. Cool. Awesome. So there we go. Another week in the books. Next week we got a Netflix movie called The Dig with quite an ensemble cast that I know we talked about in passing a couple months ago. So
yeah.
So it's out on Netflix. Go check that out. The week after that, we'll be back in the theaters with The Father.
Finally.
Yeah, no kidding. But Sam, where can I find you on Letterboxd?
You can find me if you're looking for whatever reason on letterboxd.com/sjdierberger. And where can I find you, Will?
Find me on Letterboxd at Will Spalding, and you can find us in Chicago, part of the Black Panther. Although Sam's a Crown, so we don't talk anymore.
I'm a Crown.
Or you can find us at Those Film Nerds on Instagram and thosefilmnerds@gmail.com and Those Film Nerds on any podcast platform and anchor.fm/Those Film Nerds. If you're looking for any of our podcasts, go there. But until next time, Sam.
Keep watching movies, everyone. Have a great week.
Thank you.